Um, I'm young and I've never really had direction in my life until really recently. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. There was one thing that I was always sure of. I always thought that I would be a dad in my life and that I would be a good dad. I think that's because I had great parents, and I don't know if I told them that enough, but I had great parents. I thought I would be a good dad. I have a big capacity to love, but as I said, I'm young, and when you're growing up, you have to kind of come to understand what that means. And I'm also a political science major, so I study emerging societies. And when you look at an emerging society, there's two things you can look at it that are in economics that can tell you whether or not it's a modern society. It's education and how they treat women. So at the point in my life in this story, I've dropped out of school, so education is out. So all we have left is how I treated women. At this point in my life, I was 23 and I was getting the attention of women for the first time. I lost a little weight. I bought much cooler pants. I got a job where women will just come up to you for no reason. And I think I started understanding enough about myself to have the quiet confidence that people for some reason find attractive. What I did with this power was not the greatest thing ever. I was always shy, and so women would come up to me, but I wish my stories were better, but there was a time where I handed my keys over to the bar to someone that I hardly knew, and then she was in my house when I got home. Hi, Mom. There was one girl where this kind of came to a head. She was a hostess at the place where I work. And let me preface this by saying that usually there's one thing that I'm attracted to a woman and it's a satirical mind. But she was a gymnast. And the other thing I'm attracted to about women is whether or not they're gymnasts. She was dark and beautiful and 20 years old, and she had a giant tattoo that ran from here to, I have yet to find out where. And I was very excited to have her ask me out. But I was in a time in my life where I was getting attention and I could be an ass. So I was an ass. And I didn't have a car, so like every date I had been on at that point, they came and picked me up. And she was 20 years old, so she came and picked me up and brought me back to her house, which was on the other side of town. And on the way there, we were chit-chatting and getting to know each other. And she said, you know, I'm just a fun person, and I can be loud and crazy. And I said, you know what, don't preface yourself. She said, oh, is that a problem for you? And I was like, yeah, turn the car around. And she did not get that I was kidding. And that set a bad tone for the whole rest of the date. But we were young and attracted to each other, so we carried on. So we got back to her house, and we were getting to know each other more, and I have a little mark on the side of my arm. It's like a green dot. And she asked me what it was, and I said, it's cancer. And I'm gonna die anytime now. Which is not a great thing to say, but in this situation, it was the very worst thing to say. Because she said, oh my God, that's terrible. And I said, no, I'm just kidding. And she said, no, I knew you were kidding. It's terrible that you said that. Because I was hiding something from you. I have terminal brain cancer. And I'm already past the point where doctors told me I would live for. I mean, see, this, I think this sunk in for all of you guys just now, but for me in this moment, it didn't really sink in. Because I just thought about it, I was like, that's fine, everybody's got their thing. And we started making out. Because of the tattoo and the gymnast. And so we were sitting on our couch, I think, watching Seinfeld, and I got to the point where I took off her bra, and I took off her bra and I felt it and I smirked to myself. And she said, what was that about? And I was like, well, I'm a comedian, like you know, and I'm writing a joke right now about how women have this padding in their bra. and men lie to women, and so relationships can never start on an even keel because we're both lying to each other. And I think this was the line for her. And she threw me out of the house. She was like, I've always been very sensitive about my breasts. I can't do this anymore. And she threw me out until she realized that she had to drive me home. So I sat in her car the whole way home just going like, well, silence is better. So I did what every guy would do. I called the next girl on my list. And I called her and she said, you know, I'd really like to go out with you, but I got back together with my boyfriend. And so I had one of those thoughts I think you can only have at 23. And I was like, life is short. I need to find love. I need something real in my life. I need it now. And so I decided in that moment that I needed to convince this girl that I could be there for her through this time. And I really believed in my heart that like I was a good man and that I could hold her hand until the very end and that we could grow to love each other. And even though I didn't really find her that interesting, the cancer stuff would be quite a ride. So I went on a barrage of text messages and phone calls to convince this girl that I was worth loving and that I had so much love to give and that she shouldn't go through this alone and that I was the perfect person for her to go through this with. And finally she got back to me after all this and she called me and she said, Ryan, it's very sweet that you want to date me and you want to be here for me, but I think it's very clear to both of us that we don't like each other very much. And I know that you think it's important to make a sacrifice for me, but it's not if you don't care about me. She said, I think you just really want to be liked and for me to think that you're a good person. And she said, I think that you're a good person, I just don't think that you're the person for me. And this was a 20-year-old girl. This is a 20-year-old girl that I didn't think was very interesting to begin with. And she served me up a giant life lesson. And I put the phone down and I didn't really know how to feel at first, because if I have to be honest with myself, there was part of me that thought like the next girl will really like how I shaved my head for my dead cancer girlfriend. But that is not what love is about. I think that I could have really grown to love her, but I don't think it would have been anywhere near the kind of love that I want. The kind of love where the risk is losing her in every moment. It's not just you might lose her at some point because she has cancer. The risk should be there. I could have telegraphed how that relationship would go in my mind and I would have been fine with it. I want a love where I have no idea what's going to happen, where the risk is around me at all times, and I'm so scared to lose that person for a second that I couldn't imagine having an end date to it. Thank you guys.